Hey everyone, this is Adios Amigo, and this is a little different than my normal content. Normally it's just like a simple review, but I actually made the very foolish mistake of pre ordering the Blon BL30. And if you haven't been following the story of that, uh, the long story short is that they did a release on Linsol and Drop, I believe, and there was a serious design flaw with the headphone. So I had to mod it to get it to fit my, I think, a fairly, maybe have a large head, I don't know. But it should be a standard enough-ish head because I feel like a lot of other headphones don't give me this problem. Anyway, I had to mod the headband in order for it to work, essentially. And there's a few pretty big design flaws with this headphone. So I'll go over that and how to mod it and what all the pieces are and everything on the Blon BL30. Now, as far as I know, there is a black and a bronze model. I think it was supposed to be like more of like a gold, but it came out really bronze. And so I ended up with the bronze model, as you can see. And there's a couple big things. This is what it looks like after it's been modded, right? So here's where a few of the problems for the design really kick in. Okay. The first is that you have this lip on this headphone so that no matter what you do, this cup is never going to extend beyond this yoke. The yoke is always going to act as a stopper for this. And so the problem that we have with this headphone is that originally the headband design was much more U-shaped. And what I mean by U-shaped is that you had a much more standard kind of horseshoe design. And what that basically meant is that if you have a head that's bigger than what that horseshoe design is really manufactured to accommodate, they're just kind of slink off at an angle. You can't get them to straighten because of the way that the headband works. The headband is literally just this steel band attached to this retaining plastic piece that also holds on to the vertical adjustments on this rod, which then connects to the yoke. And so the problem that you have is that for this headphone, when it had its standard U-shaped design, you wanted to expand it. Let me see if I can. If you ever wanted to expand it beyond a certain point, you were stuck because these couldn't accommodate a bigger head. Between the shape of the headband itself and also the fact that the headbands couldn't extend beyond the yokes. And so I basically had to change the geometry of it, right? So you have this ledge on the ear cup, which I just showed you, which stops it from extending beyond like perfectly vertical, essentially. And it's not a problem if your head already fit in there, right? There's adjustment within there. The problem is that if you needed the ear cup to be able to essentially rotate beyond that yoke because the headband didn't fit you and you had to kind of pull it, well, the problem is that you couldn't get it to extend beyond the yoke. So rather than being able to essentially get this situation where you pull the headband, you relax the headband through tension, and you get it to the ear cup to just kind of go beyond that to get a vertical kind of fit, wouldn't work because these retaining plastic things essentially would never be able to get to that angle just from the way that the headband design worked. So the headband design, in conjunction with the fact that the ear cup couldn't extend beyond perfectly 90 degrees, created an issue where if you had a fairly average sized head, these headphones did not fit. And so what my thinking was sure, okay, these cups don't let you go beyond 90 degrees. Okay. It won't. But what you can do is you get a lot of movement if you go the other direction, right? So instead of trying to create a situation where you're basically just hoping to get like the perfect size here, what we could do is we could re-angle basically the lip on these headbands. And essentially what this is this headband is one solid piece. And what's holding it in place, let's see if I can zoom in on this. What's holding it in place are these screws right here. You have the two screws on the side, which actually retain the headband in place. And the middle one does that as well, but it also works as sort of a retention, and it works to adjust how easy or how tight it is to move this adjustment vertically on here. So the tighter you tighten that center screw, the harder it is to move, and the looser it is, the easier it is to move. So depending on if you've got it zeroed into your perfect height adjustment, you can tighten it down, and you'll have it set. If you remove all three of these screws, essentially there's just on this metal piece here, there's just a little little cutouts into a little flange that goes inside here, and those basically retain the headband on. And so my thought was, unscrew this retaining piece on both sides, and let's see, and basically just release the tension on the headband itself. And over time, you can just widen it out, right? Just let me see. Over time, you could just widen it out like I did. And then when you have it sufficiently loose for a normal sized head, I basically have a table with metal legs, and I just put the headband, I C-clamped it to the table, and I'll throw some pictures in for a lot of this. And I just bent it till I got this more severe angle here. And the severe angle basically allows these vertical rods, right? If you have a smaller head, you can have the vertical rods out or tucked in. And this lets it fit smaller head, and then you still have adjustment so that you can get it onto a normal head. And if you have a bigger head, you can pull the rods out, and now you have a lot more play, and you can use that negative sort of angles that's allowed by the cup. Even though you can't go beyond a certain point, it should still fit most human heads, I feel like, at this point. And so that's what I did, right? So like I was saying, what you have to do, the first step to do the mod, is basically remove these pins, or remove these screws. Is that too zoomed in? Might not be enough light there. You have to remove these 3 screws on both sides. So on left channel and on right channel. And when you do, this headband, this metal headband will just slide out after you got those screws removed. And in order to do that, I ended up just using an iFixit kit. They use, I think they're using metric hex screws. So if you have a set of smaller hex, bits that you can use to remove these, that's what you're going to need. And then once you have this headband off, basically what I did was I took the headband off and I put it like this on a table. And then I used C-clamps to basically start here down in the middle. And I would just leave it clamped for about a day or 2, sometimes 3. And then just start putting the clamps wider out, further and further and further apart until there was a lot less tension. And the headband itself didn't have quite such a severe horseshoe shape. You got more of almost kind of like a very gradual rainbow kind of shape on there. And once I got to that point, I would just keep testing it, put it on my head and see how it fit. And once it felt sufficiently wide enough, and I'll throw pictures in for this, I C-clamped basically the flat of this headband right here against the leg of my table. And then that basically left just this part out over the length of the leg. And then I used another C-clamp to pull it in. And after even just, frankly, like 20, 30 seconds, if you actually get it tightened enough, you'll notice a difference. And if you keep screwing down the C clamp, after about almost a minute and a half, I got it to a point where this actually fit a normal human head. And that's really all it took, is just some bits to get these off, these retaining screws, and the screw here to tighten against the rod, and C clamps, and that's all it took. I mean, what you may have happen, if your C clamps have like a plastic leg or something like that, what I used is, because I did have that problem, I used a small hammer with a flat iron side, and just used that as like a pinch, or rather, I should say, I pinched the hammer between the headband and the C clamp to get a straight angle, and also so that it didn't scratch anything when I tightened it up against the table leg. And so that's the first thing, right? That's just the basic mod to get this to work. It's time intensive, but it's relatively cheap. It doesn't require a ton of investment in tools, right? The other thing is just the general build quality itself. So one, I guess you could say, good thing is the fact that because everything is so easy to access, it's relatively easy to mod, right? You got screws here holding in the yokes on the cups themselves. You have screws underneath here. Let's see if we can get that. You have screws underneath here that retain the yoke onto this adjustment rod. And then you have screws holding the adjustment rod to the headband. And all of them are removable, very easy to adjust. Mine out of the box actually had an issue where these were basically just free floating. These screws were both loose that hold the yoke to this adjustment rod. And these would just free spin. And over time, they loosened up to the point where this just actually unthreaded itself against the screw. The adjustment rods just unthreaded themselves against the screw. And they almost just came straight out. And the only thing really holding it in is that screw in here. And I haven't personally done this, but I am actually thinking about possibly just using blue Loctite on these screws underneath here so they stop backing out, because I'm having a problem with them backing out like pretty consistently. And I'm probably going to tighten up the adjustment rods. As you've seen, these have pretty loose play. And when I had first adjusted these, they did not have this much play. I actually tightened them more than that, and it feels like they back out over time. So that may need some kind of Loctite as well. But I kind of don't want to use blue Loctite because you need heat to loosen it if you ever want to adjust it. And these are plastic retention pieces. So if I heat it, I don't know if the plastic is actually going to fare that well when I try to loosen the blue Loctite. So that's got me a little bit scared. Down here, that's not as big of much of a deal because this is metal. This is metal. I feel a little bit more comfortable with that, right? So yeah, it's doable. You can make these wearable for a normal human head. It's just gonna take some effort, really. Yeah, let me get this tightened down a little bit. Okay. So I haven't listened to them yet. I just got the mod done today, and I'm shocked that it actually worked to the point where I can wear these on my head now. So yeah, like I said, you don't have to necessarily do it the same way I did, but the principle generally is to release the tension, because this is almost more of a U shape when it first comes in. It's more severe. This center point comes out more up, and then we just want to basically get it to release some of that tension and widen out a little bit. Get it to loosen up a little bit so that it widens up. And then you want to reprofile the angle on this. Instead of it being like a smooth kind of horseshoe, you want to make it kind of tuck in a little bit more. And basically that's this right here. I don't know if you can see that. Right? Because normally the headband had this kind of profile. And this section down here that I'm going to put a box around is basically where the retention screws fit into, right here. And so basically what we're doing is we're taking this and we're reprofiling it so it angles inward like this up here. So you kind of want to give it a bend where it comes in like that. And basically, when you get it to do that, when you get it to have this angle instead of the more natural one it has, you can make use of the fact that there's actually more play. Instead of this direction, going this direction, right? Because we don't have this play, we're going to reprofile it so that we have more adjustability going this direction. And that's all it is, essentially. So before, this headband basically would have come out like this. And then we just bent it in and in and in until it hit this angle. And then we slapped on the retaining plastic pieces. And that seems to have solved the problem in conjunction with widening the headband out. And so that's basically it. The problem that I'm having really is the fact that we shouldn't have to do this. And the fact that all of these screws were coming loose is kind of a real negative. I've had Blons. I've got the BL03s for the IEMs, and I've got the BL05s. I've always thought the fit and finish on those were shockingly good for the price. And I was kind of hoping for a similar punching in above the price point, and I just feel let down by these headphones. So I haven't given my listening impression yet. I haven't even hooked these up. I literally just took these out of the C-clamps to find out that the headband had finally been rejiggered in a way that I was pretty happy with. So what I'm thinking the final touches on this are going to be, because the cushion on this is also really cheap. It's basically just a foam wraparound with snaps that snap around the headphone band. I'm probably just going to buy some Dakoni nuggets and plop those on. But even without those, it's already, even without any cushioning on at all, the mod essentially lets the tension comfortably sit on my head. That lets the headphones sit on my head comfortably. Although the nuggets would be nicer. But yeah, again, even without that, it's a vast improvement. So it's basically just a reshaping and a loosening of the tension of the headband. That's the biggest part of it. And it's all stuff that you can do with either really cheap C-clamps and a simple set of hex drivers, or whatever else you can think of. If you have like other tools to help you bend and release the tension and reprofile those little flanges that these attach to. That's basically it, So I'm going to try and make sure that I have all the pictures here, so there's a little bit more to go on than just me pointing at the finished product. But yeah, I mean, it's doable. It's doable. So I'm going to be doing a sound impression, like a review of the product itself later. I did an unboxing video, and literally the day I did the unboxing video and I realized that this headphone was a piece of crap in terms of design. Not the drivers, just the way the comfort and the physical design of it, the way it fits on my head. I put them into the headphone case, which I have right here, and I was pretty happy with. You'll see it in the unboxing. And what happened is I had both of the zippers on the bottom like this, right? I had both of the zippers on the bottom of the case. I was carrying it, both of the zippers down here, and literally just walking across the street, the zippers loosened up and headphones fell out the bottom. And these basically landed on asphalt and got scratched, which I was not very happy about. I had planned on using that for more expensive headphones, like my Stacks up here. And so I wasn't very happy. I'm glad that it happened the way it did because these are only like $100, but still. So my idea originally was to do an open back headphone under $100 shootout. Because when I got these were about $100, I think. It's still close enough. But so I was going to include these. I was going to include the Philips SHP 9500s. I've also got a pair of 8kg K245s, which I feel like I hear criminally little about. For real, like I feel like there needs to be a little bit more fanfare for the AKG K245 and the K275, depending on if you want to open or close back. I really feel like those are not mentioned nearly enough for the bang. Oh, let me see if I can fix that. I feel like they're not mentioned nearly enough for the bang for the buck proposition on either of those, especially because they're relatively efficient. So it's, it's something that like, it's kind of possibilities for gaming headsets under $100 or just general utility. There's going to be, all sorts of use cases for the headphones within that price category. What else? I also have some Mackies coming in. I was curious about the open and the closed back for sound editing because I've been having issues where I use certain headphones to do my mastering, and it just doesn't sound the same when I listen to it on various speakers and other headphones. And so I feel like I need to get something a little bit more neutral for the mastering, utility. And I do have mic audio that I do plan on releasing for comparisons. So I got that. Oh, and I'm also going to be doing an IEM shootout if that's something that interests you. I'm planning on a fairly large sample of under $100 IEMs. In the lineup, it's, what is it? TFZ number 3, TFC Live 3, the 10T2. I think it's the FIO EX1, but originally it was the Dunu Titan 1. It used to be in titanium, and then they put it in a plastic shell, rebranded it with FIO, but it's the same drivers and size and design, I think. Is there anything else in there? Oh yes, the Blons. Yeah, the Blon BL3, BL03, the Blon BL05. But honestly, after this experience with Blon, I'm having some serious reservations about purchasing from them again, which is a shame because I really like their IEMs. It is an actual shame. Again, I haven't heard it, and maybe the sound quality will redeem this whole fiasco. But the fact that I couldn't even wear this for months, well, multiple months, more than 3 weeks, I was unable to wear this thing because I was trying to figure out the best way to get it to fit on my head because the designers had failed at that very, very simple task. It shouldn't be this hard. I've never purchased a headphone, right? I mean, like, I've had headphones that clamp really tightly, and I'm okay with that. I've never had a headphone where I literally could not get the cups around my ear because it was designed to fit someone's head that was so much smaller. It basically was just like this. Like the cups themselves were just up at an angle, and this restriction on not letting the cups to go up further was preventing it to fit on my head, which is, I don't understand how that happens. I don't know how the design team let that one through. It's still beyond me, and it makes me angry. and that might color my impressions of the headphone. But for those of you who made what I deem currently to be the same mistake that I made, if you need help getting it, it's doable. You can make it fit. It's doable. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully the pictures I give you help. Hopefully just knowing that it's possible helps. If all else fails, I am more than happy to discuss any part of this with anyone who's interested. In retrospect, I wish I had taken video while I did it. But well, that's already kind of passed. I wasn't sure it was going to work, so I don't know, it felt like a waste to me. But anyway, yeah, so that's the mod for these. I'll give my sound impressions later, all the same. Thanks for watching. If you have anything that you would like to add or any questions you'd like to have answered, go ahead and let me know in the comments. All right, this has been Adios Amigo. Peace out.